Greetings, my name's Philip. Thank you for being present. Today we're going to be talking about the new moon in Leo, intending that you're finding yourself within warm-hearted spaces, that you're holding space for your heart, for the resonance of the pulse. What's a pulse? Well, a pulse is a seed, and we're star seeds. Leo is the sun's sign, and it's meeting with the moon. So we're talking about a solar energy. We're talking about a solar fire. We're talking about the soul's fire that's from within us. The sun actually pulsates. It says it pulsates. It comes with a rhythmic kind of thump, a pulse, which is a seed. The star seed comes from within. Ba-bum, bum, bum, ba-bum, ba-bum. It's like a brass band, but it's like one of those huge drums. Ba-bum, bum, 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 bum. But actually, Saturn is really the drummer that keeps the time. It's actually the flair and the invigoration, really that which this valve that is the heart space pulsates. And so we are seeding and generating with our invigoration, with our inspiration. It kind of spirals on up. This spiraling on up energy is our own cascading ourselves up. We propel ourselves up. Fire, fixed fire, looks to sustain itself. It gathers and collects itself, and yet it burns from the inside out. It burns, it invigorates itself. This is the solar fire of the sun, the middle of summer. Thank you for your presence, because this new moon is actually a very powerful new moon of change. Because maybe the way that we have been operating from our hearts hasn't been orientated so much of the heart. It could have been more of the mind. The mind is a useful tool. It is a useful tool, but it's a contraption. It's a mechanical scenario. It actually gets us caught up within the thoughts. The fortress of the mind is something which we're learning to kind of be more loose with, more lucid, like kind of conscious, clairvoyant, kind of going into clarity, which is actually more of a feeling sensation, coming into the embodiment of a spiritual experience at this slow vibrating ratio that we're pulsating out, coming into the presence. We're revealing our gifts rather than getting caught up in all of the worries, in all the atmospherics, because all these things within the atmosphere make us actually inferior when we associate with them. But we do within this world, within the atmosphere, the Maya, the illusion, Mother Earth. It rocks us so gently that actually we do get caught up. We are here bound to get caught up within the contractual scenarios within our experience, for us to love ourselves out of them, because we aren't here to be victim to scenarios. We're here to bail ourselves out of them by loving ourselves, which is a quality of accountability. This love, the heart, this love, our own invigoration to pump up our own valves, to pump ourselves up, is actually like a muscle, isn't it? And so what we have the opportunity to do is to find that obviously we are sustaining ourselves with our own self-worth, because we do what we love, like what the Leo energy is all about. It's about a whole lot of gusto. It's about being the sun that emanates and beams on out from the central space of its own being. It's a centrifugal kind of combustion system which burns from the inside out. It said it burns from the inside out. It's invigorating because it's to continuously be able to give to itself what it needs to sustain itself more. And so you think of a fire, obviously it needs those elements. It needs that air, doesn't it? Air. A fire needs air. It rises up. And it also needs to be able to crackle. It needs some kind of substance. It needs that some kind of earthy thing to burn upon, doesn't it? And so it needs this triangle for the fire to work, so it can go through on its systematic journey and process of sustaining itself. And so we actually do have a grand fire trine in the sky currently. We've been working through a grand fire trine at the South Node in Sagittarius with the Sun domicile within its own domain in Leo, moving with Mercury. We had actually a couple of days ago a superior conjunction, Mercury flying above the Sun, and now it's taken over the Sun. And this was happening just as we had our opposition of, well, it was a conjunction of the Sun and Mercury, a superior conjunction opposing Saturn pretty much. So it was a few hours after that Mercury would oppose Saturn, and then the Sun would do the same. And it is actually currently now that we see that they're both squaring, well, one by one, Mercury first, and we will have the Sun square Uranus. And we're going to be talking about actually how Uranus goes retrograde within this cycle just before we get to the full moon. And so this symbolizes a lot of the change, because fixed signs, the middle of a season, which is Taurus, it's Leo, it's Scorpio, and it's Aquarius. This is the fixed sign axis. This is the energy which is the middle of each of the seasons, the fixed cross. And so for us to be able to have fixed energy, it's looking to sustain things. It's looking to find that we can have longevity to certain degrees within a certain remedy, formula kind of thing. And so within our creativity with Leo, we're looking to find a heart invigorating thing that makes us feel valued by ourselves, by the people that we're connecting with, by the tribe in the world, all these different things. And yet maybe our old blueprints, our old operating systems, the old templates, they ain't been working. Obviously, we know Pluto in Capricorn retrograde, as well as Saturn in Aquarius retrograde, with Uranus going to go retrograde in Taurus, which rules Aquarius. So the way that we have actually been able to trade our creativity, Aquarius opposite Saturn, opposite Leo, and support one another without the need to tear each other down, because we can all just be great, because we've all got our own uniqueness, we've all got our own values, we've all got our own opportunities to share what we're good at and what we're great at and what we enjoy, what brings us into our joy. And joy, well, joy, it's who we are, it's who I am, it is that I am. And when we look at the Ram, when we look at the Aries energy, which is being healed as well, Chiron in Aries, part of this fire energy that we had the grand fire trine from K2, the South Node in Sagittarius, to Chiron retrograde in Aries, to the Sun in Leo. That grand fire trine, what we're looking at it doing is putting ourselves first, because the Ram, I am, Aries, they put themselves first, is the first sign. And so Mars is the ruling planet of Aries, and the way that we're learning with this new moon, with Venus and Mars up ahead in Virgo, is actually that we can structure and support ourselves by doing the things that we love. Why is it things that we love that support us the best, that make us the most invigorating, that make us the most inspirational heroes of our lives, as well as those other people that we're collaborating with? We see that we can gaze across at them as equals. Who've got their own quality, their own quintessential way of doing things. All the different types of astrologers on this channel alone, fantastic. They're equally fantastic in their own way, because they've got their own way of doing things. And you go to the people who you resonate with. If you'd like to come for me for a personal consultation, all your links in the description box below as per usual. You can connect with me. But what we're talking about within this equality of supporting each other, Leo, is about friendship. It's like your friends support you. They're fans. Like, they will waft the flames of your fire and support you and rise you up. Like everybody in this chat, you're fantastic. Astro Divinorium, I appreciate you. Robin Evans, you are appreciated. Ben Vinar, you're appreciated. CP, I appreciate you. Sharon, Sheila Fee, I appreciate you. Everybody in this live chat, you are appreciated. If you're watching in the recording, you are equally appreciated. We all lift each other up. There ain't no competition, except for how much we can love ourselves each and every single day. And some days we'll do it more, and sometimes we'll do it less. But if we can support ourselves within like a habit and a ritual and routine, which we're learning about the value of within this lunar cycle with Mars, which means I am following my joy in my day-to-day rituals and routines, anchoring a frequency by pursuing things that support me, whether it's the yoga, could be the affirmations, maybe it's just the shower in the morning. Could be a way that we take our deep breath. We could do lots of different things. It might be writing a song. It could be learning to write music. It could be learning a language. Whatever practice that we do that brings us up to a certain standard, we can tick off every day and say, I did it. I did it. And eventually you get a certain quality. You get kind of a Taurian quality. You get to the opportunity to see that you've got this firm dexterity to the way that you've folded in on yourself, practicing something, got kind of consistent at something. And so we find these hobbies, our crafts, become our greatest gifts. They take us into these frequencies, a golden frequency of joy. That's which we are. And so when we talk about Mars, which is actually Ram backwards, Mars is Ram backwards. And Ram, we know it's a new idea. Ram means right ascension of meridian. And so when you fold into the right ascension of meridian, you're folding into yourself. You're marinating into yourself. That's a toroidal vortex. That's a toroidal vortex. When you're folding into yourself, you're going into to the heart. You're going in to love yourself. This is exactly what centrifugal nervous system will do. It goes into the self. This is why it's like butterfly stroke, because we are going into the transformation and transmutation by folding into self. That's right ascension of meridian. This is cosmology. This is the good stuff. And I'm grateful for you, because when we actually find that actually we're able to pull away from things that we're magnetized from to outside, things that we get distracted into in the matter of things, then actually we've fallen into the entrapment of the mind. But when we come into the lucid nature of what ain't so serious, but we must pay attention to the serious, because that's our story, that's our tale. But when we come back into the lucidity, we get to recreate, because this is a recreational experience. Saturn is a recreational farmer planet. It's a harvester. It's a master builder. So we must become Saturn. We must become the sun. And we're looking at this opposition which we've had. How do we support ourselves within our creativity, within our heart's joy? How do we follow and sustain ourselves every single day and recreate our habits, recreate the messages which we feed into ourselves? We marinate into ourselves with love. We complement ourselves and one another. Because when we find that we actually expand and broaden the capacity to love ourselves more and more, to build a tighter relationship with ourselves, to be able to moor the current to the embankment of our own self-inner security, which means that we've got more accountability, more self-credibility. We actually have more current that we seize. We gather and collect ourselves. We see, hey, I see something that's challenging. I can love that, and I can love me too, because I'm infinite within the stuff. You know, the strength card, it's the lion, isn't it? And it's got that being open in the lion's mouth, and it's pulling out some kind of tooth, or maybe it's pulling out some kind of thorn from inside of the lion's mouth. That takes tremendous strength, does that. And that symbolizes to me when we find actually we have the opportunity to see our shadows are revealed to us. Our shadows are revealed to us when we pursue what we love. And we get entangled within the atmospherics, because often what we love is, whether it's a craft, whether it's our bodies, whether it is the attainment of a house, whether it's actually a relationship with another being, it often reveals to us our tail. That's serious. You know, the dog star. It reveals our shadows, because, you know, lights, I've got one here, it's so bright. It's casting a shadow over there. And so whatever we lay our attention on will be casting a shadow behind us, will be trailing behind us. It's actually what happens in the dog days of summer. What's that tale? Our tale is that as long as the day is, our shadows will be trailing behind us the longer. I mean, I butchered that one up. That's what I do. But that is actually that well-known tale, isn't it? That actually we cast each other, especially in like groups like this, a collective, a network, a sphere of influence, an Aquarian group of beings. They're the cast. We are one another's supporting cast, yet lights cast shadows, don't they? We cast a shadow. And so this is our opportunity to be accountable for what we see, and obviously give benefit of the doubt, because at this time Mercury is beneath the beams of the sun until it makes ingress into Virgo, which will be a couple of days after the new moon. So this whole lunar cycle, which I'm going to be pulling up on the screen in a minute now, we're actually going to have this kind of infusement of working within the underworld with regards to our communications. If Mercury's within 10 degrees of the sun, it's assumed by the beams. It's actually consumed by the light of the sun. You can't see Mercury in the night sky. It will re-emerge once it ingresses into Virgo on the 11th. But for this whole 28-day lunar cycle, starting at 16 degrees of Leo, we're going to have this recognizing of how we often trip over our own tails, our own shadows, because Mercury's still going through the underworld while it's so close to the sun. And yet after, once we get to the next lunar cycle within Mercury's home sign of Virgo, I think Mercury's probably likely to be off into Libra by that point. And yet Mercury will go retrograde in Libra. It's about changing perspective. And so we've got a long way to go before we get to that mutable energy, because this is fixed fire. So as I say, Uranus will be going retrograde also. It's going to go retrograde until January, as of a couple of days before the full moon in Aquarius. We already just had a full moon in Aquarius at 1 degree of Aquarius, and so we're going to be having the next one at 29 degrees. It's a double whammy. And so there's much change, and it's happening just 2 days after Uranus goes retrograde, which is on the 19th of August, all the way until the 18th of January. And it will be actually that it goes back to 10 degrees and 49 minutes, which is where Uranus was at back in May. So it's going back from 14 degrees to 10 degrees, where it was back in May. So we can kind of revisit, and you can consider that actually we're learning to put a lot more faith in what we can do with regards to networks, with regards to self-organization. We can do a lot when we recognize our abilities to self-organize. Also, this is an opportunity for the corporations. It's all opportunities for those dead corporations which don't really get run by humane suits. They are suits and ties that are running them. They're not necessarily run by feelings. They're run by the mind. And so we can recognize where we are able to excuse ourselves and go and be self-sustaining, self-organizing, heart-generated communities if this is what we would choose. And the ability for us to do that with regards to Jupiter also going back into Aquarius. It's like the year of Aquarius, because it's the year of the ox. We're clearing the way by learning what we're able to do with our technological advancements, with regards to us all recognizing ourselves being so much more valuable as we come together without the disputes of the separation, as we come together without the national divisions or limitations with regards to our belief systems, as we are now coming together so much more than we ever have done before as tribe, recognizing that you've got things and abilities and gifts and talents which I certainly don't, and I've got a load of great gifts and talents which you may not have. And we can trade and exchange, and we can learn to support one another, and we can actually introduce other people to each other which may benefit from our gifts and talents, raising our ability to have a high vibrational manifestation experience where we become more magnetic, more magnanimous. We actually recognize we're depleting our value less, and we're kind of walking on water. This is actually learning about how to pump up our heart, pump up the value, that which we're buying into, and that's ourselves. That's our soul. This is our own hero's journey, and we're learning that we are able and we are capable of recognizing our abilities to create our own reality. And so let's tap into it, shall we? Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for being who you are. You are a sound vibration frequency being, and I'm grateful for you. Again, if you want a personal consultation, you can get in contact with me. I am available for your connections. We will be going on to the on-screen chart with you. I will just read a review, a feedback, a testimonial, if you will, that I received back from a happy client, which I spoke to a couple of days ago. They were on the Isle of Wight. I am actually currently in the UK, was in Mexico, shall be likely returning in the not too distant current future right now. So this is a lovely message I got from Roz. I wanted to say thank you for the fantastic session we had, deep diving into my chart. I found it profoundly helpful, as well as thoroughly enjoyable. And know that the recognition you passed on to me in our conversation will keep nourishing me and aiding me going forward. Lovely, isn't it? Your perspective on astrological energies, your passion, your fantastic humor, and sensitivity are so valuable and massively appreciated. Thank you for your kindness, knowledge, and patience in helping me understand myself more deeply. I thoroughly recommend a deep dive with Philip's marvelous mind, and we'll be back in due course for another session. So thank you again, Philip. It was a real pleasure. All the best. Well, thank you so much, Roz. I'm grateful for that kind of feedback. It's so nice to be able to hear that people are gaining priceless connections with astrology, and I'm able to help nourish that. If you'd like to invest in yourself and you'd like to have a consultation with me, check out the links below. I'm here to serve you. I'm here to empower you to all of the greatest aspects within your chart, even those more challenging ones, and hold space to see actually how astrology allows us to have a greater connection with ourselves. It's a bit like we're able to step into our observation of self through the lens of our higher or deepest, most loving core self, generating compassion and healing and empathy for all of our greatest qualities, and even the ones which obviously we're working on and laboring away with love on. I'm able to help you with that, and I'll be happy to arrange a mutually beneficial time to connect. I appreciate you in the live chat, Ali and Heidi. See you there. Thank you for your presence. Right, let's get this show on the road, on the double, and let's share the live screen where the moon is now actually at 29 degrees, waning. The moon's waning in the sign of Gemini. We will be going on to pull 12 cards for the 12 signs, so stick around for all that kind of thing. I shall be excited to go through that with you. Let me get this on the screen. Here we go. I see you, Wayne Peak. It is an invaluable self-discovery journey. The more that you get a tight relationship, actually, to more your relationship is to like take a boat to the side of a bank of a river. And so the more that we get into the Moorish nature of the quintessential nature of astrology, it's nurturing to us. We actually find that the language goes beyond chart reading and it goes into all of the arcs of our story, as well as into all signs, shapes, and sigils. It's a beautiful, beautiful experience. And I'm always still learning, even after a whole Jupiter cycle of doing so. Here we go. The current chart on the screen. You can actually accomplish anything in a Jupiter cycle, don't you know? Even dreams that you don't realize that you're walking out on when you start. And so this is interesting because we're in the year of the ox now, and you will often find that Jupiter will be in Aquarius for the vast majority of your year of the ox. And so year of the ox is about clearing the way from old things. But Jupiter rules Sagittarius where the South Node is, and we're clearing the way from old belief systems in a very big way. It will be that actually by the end of December, that's when the South Node will go into Scorpio. And we're going to really learn a lot about that. We will do a video on it at the time. But right now, it's like changing the faith of the things that have actually been in place for the past 33 years since we actually had the conjunction of of Uranus and Saturn. I'm going to take an unexpected deep dive with you guys right now. Let's go back to 1988, because this is the year of figuring out what was seeded then. Okay, now I've got your attention, have I? Now I've got you interested, you astrology fanatics, because it was actually the conjunction of Saturn and Uranus when I was 2 years old myself, back in 1988. Here we go. That we see that took place at like 27 degrees, as you see here, of Sagittarius. And so just like every cycle, like we're tapping into this new moon, it has a first quarter, an opposition, and it has a closing third quarter. And we are at the closing third quarter of what was seeded here towards the end of 1988. You see them together here? And so basically this was a seed of a cycle which is about alternative structures within society, like corporations, for instance, like Apple, which was Macintosh back in 1988, you see. And so also this is about the structures of the world being influenced beyond nationality. And so the belief systems about nationality would eventually span out within this 44-year cycle. It doesn't close out yet for another 11 years. We don't have the next conjunction, which will actually be opposite, 180 degrees opposite at the very end of Gemini, where the moon is now. And so it's very interesting because it always happens opposite each other, these conjunctions of Saturn and Uranus, and they make a fantastic star over the course of lots of time. But this is also obviously like weeding now. If we're closing a cycle out, we'll be getting conscious on it. We're weeding things out from what started way back then. And so we can see like so much more of really what we're dealing with now when we're aware of the past experiences of what we lived through. This was move it forward by the year. We'll see that they went through Capricorn together. They start to break apart. We had our first squares in like 98, 99 here in the same signs which they're in now, but switched. So Saturn moves much more fast. It takes 28 years to cycle. Uranus takes 84 years to cycle. And so they had their opening square here, similar degrees to what they've been functioning at this year. So this would have been 1999. Everyone's getting modems, get online, AOL, MySpace, that type of thing. Get your phones, give someone a shout, all that kind of thing. Mike Skinner, the Skins, you know what it's all about. And so then they would have come and they would have extended. You can see here that we had the opposition, 9/11, the opposition of Pluto and Saturn. We just, in 2020, had the conjunction of Pluto and Saturn in January the 12th, 2020. And so that tells you a fair amount, doesn't it? Very interesting. Very nice, very evil, one could say. But look at the South Node there, again, going through the end of Capricorn, which is where the South Node was going through in 2020, 19 years later. Big deal? Just mentioning it because it is interesting, isn't it? Especially with Jupiter exalted there in Cancer at that point. Let's go back to the subject matter, and we're going to be looking at the opposition of to Saturn to Uranus, and we can see that took place here. It was obviously a lot about belief systems and idealization. 2007 structures with regards to the media. Big things going on. Do you remember in 2007 they had the bombings in London? I mean, I'm no historian, but these things would have opposed for a while, and then like this year they have the whole closing square all year, and so we had to wait until after all of the things that we've lived through recently, which was this only last year. Saturn, Jupiter, and Pluto together for the first time in 735 years in Capricorn within 6 degrees. Actually, the first time in about 6,000 years that it would have been so tight. And so we get to now, and we're having what will be the closing square. And so it is that Uranus goes retrograde within this lunar cycle. Let's bring it back. And we will see that what I've been talking about for the past 5 minutes is summarized by the changes which we need to make, and we are making now, because we've seen that the corporations, the belief systems about nationalities, they ain't necessarily the way that they were when we were born. We see that actually our home isn't the country we were born in. It isn't the nationality that our parents gave us necessarily for you. It may be for you. For some people it is, but we need the opportunity to recognize that we can self-organize beyond these boundaries, beyond these limitations, without the walls, without a passport. But these passports are somewhat inevitable to a degree. You could say they are. And yet, so how can we see that we can bring changes to this? How can we bring alternative systems? This is what we're working with. This is the importance of what we're working with right now. Okay, so let's come back to now, the present. The gift is actually here. And so we'll look at that. And that is this lunar cycle, which we're about to fathom. And so thank you for you sticking around. Thank you for your proper interest in what we're working with. Because the prism planet is about a prism of consciousness. The science of light and dark is truly what astrology is best for. And so we can recognize that this lunar cycle, which Uranus, we're going to come back to the new moon. You see it's here. We're just going to span it out by a few days. This new lunar cycle, which squares Uranus, 16 degrees of Leo, squaring to Uranus, which isn't retrograde at the time of the new moon. So there's the challenge. The challenge is, how do I create? How do I navigate being my alternative way? We're going to find out that we've gone within the innovation and the valuing of innovation as far as we possibly can. But how can we shift it up a little bit more with regards to this retrograde over the course of the next 6 months? And then by the time that Uranus returns back to 14 degrees, which will be May the 5th, 2022, the spring next year, we'll have a massive breakthrough. It's paradigm shattering. That's what Uranus is all about. And so, especially with a very weird second full moon in Uranus's sign, it's very interesting. So this lunar cycle waxes and Mercury reappears once it goes into Virgo. We already have trines from Venus to Uranus at the moment. Mars goes on to do it just before the retrograde. Mercury is actually traveling with Mars through Virgo. And then it's actually that Uranus stations retrograde at 14 degrees and 47 minutes while the moon's going through Capricorn just before it gets into fullness, which will be in a conjunction with Jupiter retrograde in Uranus's sign of Aquarius, with Saturn also there retrograde, squaring Uranus. And so as that moon waxes, it's going to go over Saturn, it's going to square the retrograde, very freshly, Uranus. This is earthquakes and earth innovations. This is unexpected news. In the media, with Mars and Mercury in the sign of media, Jupiter opposing the sun all the way the moon's building it to join it. And then it's a release. It's a release of the energy of Cancer. So this is the subconscious energy. So let's reel it back. Let's reel it back, because we're looking at what's seeded within the cycle. And so after it's fun, because after the full moon, the massive release of belief systems conjunct Jupiter. So I'm not putting my faith in this situation. I'm not putting my faith in that community. I'm not putting my faith into those corporations and companies, into those medias. And so what we can recognize is that maybe in the personal lives, we're like, I'm putting my faith in definitely going to yoga every day. After what I seeded in this new moon, the weeks building to the full moon, I'm never not doing yoga every day on a personal level. I'm never not having a green smoothie every day. I'm never not having an avocado every single day, because of the way that we've learned to treat ourselves within the embodiment of who we are, how we can hold down a frequency. I'm never not going onto Astrology and checking out videos every day. I'm never not checking my thermos every day. I'm never not. It's funny, never not. It's a double negative, isn't it? We're kind of recognizing that the subtraction here, the alleviation, is through the negatives. We're seeing things in black and white. Mercury is beneath the beams of the sun. So we're recognizing into frequencies rather than deciding on information. Information of the mind keeps us shackled in fear, inferiorities of the fortress. And so what we're looking into doing is coming right into our hearts and feeling into what's best for us, feeling into the frequencies which we sustain by doing our habits, by doing our rituals. It could be music, it could be dancing, it could be yoga, it could be prancing. I don't know which you do to hold down a frequency, sunshine, but it's best be something that puts out that pulse, puts out that remedy, puts out that melody, puts out that frequency that makes you ring out like a symbol of love for yourself, because you are worthy, and no less, and no less. And anything that drags and snarls, anything that pulls away, anything that reveals the story, we can love that too. We can love it through and through the ringer, because that's what we go through every single cycle. Let's pull that moon tight towards the sun. I appreciate you in the live chat. Thank you for holding it down. Thank you for being present. You are the gift, and you recognize it beyond the lights of illusion, because there was darkness before there was light. It is actually the backdrop of the night sky that makes those stars so beautiful. And so we can be grateful for those that reveal our shadows, but it's for us to be accountable, for us to be responsible, for us to do the loving labors of love, so that we can be self-supportive within that experience. I see you in the live chat, Olivia Boyd. I inspire you too. Thank you for your presence, Broken Arrow Farm. And I'm grateful for you, Joyce Adina. All of you in the live chat, as well as you brilliant people watching in the recording, thank you for giving yourself a thumbs up, and thank you for thumbsing up this video while you're at it too. Violet Melon, I'm grateful for you. So this is a new moon, a fixed new moon, right slap bang in the middle of Leo. And it's awkward, isn't it? Because it hasn't got an opposition to Saturn, hasn't really got this opposition fully to Jupiter. It's in the middle of those. Awkward as you like. But yet you can see we have a Mercury underneath the beams within Leo as well. So there's this communication issue. And we look at Rahu and Mercury's sign. We look at Venus and Mars and Mercury's sign. Even Mars is squaring the nodes, almost exactly. And so there is this square of the nodes, which means there's this self-orientation, this is self-activation. Virgo is the second house of Leo. We're looking at day-to-day rituals, consistent day-to-day practices, routines that anchor a frequency. I said you can anchor a frequency that is actually speaking your truth into your reality by being an activator of self-courage, self-recognition, especially when you're changing and altering belief systems for being the change which you want to be. And so Mars rules Aries. Mars rules Aries, which is the ninth house of Leo. It's our belief systems. It's going up above and beyond to heal ourselves. With this new moon at 16 degrees of Leo, making a harmonic trine. I said it's a harmonic trine, which is a frequency, which of 16 degrees of Leo back to 12 degrees of Aries, where we have Chiron Retrograde, which means we're going within, we're going under, we're going above, and we're going up. We're going within and we're going under. This weave, which Chiron does, it's like sewing. It's sewing a stream of consciousness within the activation of doing things which change and alter our belief system, because I can. Because I recognise when I've done things so many times, perpetually, consistently, that it's changed the belief system of what I can do. Do you know, I've interviewed many astrologers that have been my heroes. I work with Lada Donchiva, you know, she's a fantastic astrologer, which I watched 12 years ago on YouTube, and she's my colleague. She's my friend. I'm grateful for that. It's because we work, we labour away at what we love at, and then we can manifest our dreams. Do you know, I met a WWE wrestler and did yoga with them and interviewed them on my YouTube channel because I'm an astrologer. So when you do what you love, you get to live your dreams. And I'm only just getting started. I said I'm just getting started. I'm going to interview my favourite bands. I'm going to interview more fantastic astrologers. I'm going to do conferences. I'm going to write books, because when you pursue what you love, which is your joy, which is your Mars, which is your right ascension of Meridian, doing the things that you love, filtering into your heart perpetually, consistently, you're going to do a butterfly stroke. You're going to do a butterfly stroke and create a quintessential bond within your own connection to your heart, which means that you're going to be buoyant, like a young boy, floating on the ocean, conscious, like Christ, walking on water. That is the truth. I'm a life path 8. I've practiced it. I've been down to the depths. I go down there frequently. We do. We're deep divers. Oh, yes, we are. We're deep divers, but we're warriors of love. So thank you for being within the contentment of your own heart. Don't you remember? This is a Cancerian lunar cycle we're clearing out right now as I speak, as we project into what this Leo lunar cycle may contain for us. It's squaring Uranus, which will be the 10th house of Leo. And so we've got a square, a 90-degree angle. It ain't 90 degrees, let's be fair. It's 92 degrees because you got Uranus at 14 degrees and it will go retrograde, but not for another, what is it, 12 days? 12 days into the cycle. We already looked, didn't it? It's when the moon's in Capricorn conjunct Pluto. We'll probably find that actually it's when the moon trines Uranus, there's a change. And that kind of change could be like inflation in the stock market, deflation. Uranus is unpredictable, unexpected changes. You don't know. We don't know what it could be, but there's actually going to be that kind of grand Earth trine at that point. You can then picture it. I mean, we'll have another look at it because we're greedy like that. We just want to see it one more time. But I know that Mars is going to move on, and it's going to be in a grand Earth trine with the moon in Capricorn and Uranus turning retrograde in the Venus's sign of Taurus, while Venus is making trines to Pluto at the time of this new moon. So you can recognize the value system is changing. Your value system is changing when you love yourself. When I love myself, I recognize myself and I love myself that bit more. We can always do it a bit more. And it's what's a bit and what's more. Bit is a new idea, isn't it, in the computer? It's just a little bit, but it's a brand new idea. That's all you need, a spark. Just a little idea, pinprick of an idea, and it can grow. It's a seed, just like a pulse. It's a seed. And so what we do is we're seeding love. You and I, we're seeders. We're master builders. And so what you envision, what you perceive, what you imagine, you can create. As we open up, as we find ourselves away from the atmospherics that says, no, I can't. If we let go of the belief systems that says, no, I could never. If we can actually find that we can fathom it within us and be our own hero, we can recognize that, yes, we're able to do anything in this place. And this is our ability to enable ourselves. Mars squaring the nodes. Oh my gosh, it's an evolutionary karmic step for healing ourselves, activating new belief systems with regards to the identification of our own creativity. By gosh, yes, you can. What are your greatest attributes? What are your greatest skills? Are you doing the work for you so that you can live off your joy? Because you can buy your time back. Saturn is granting you the opportunity to have more time. It's retrograde, gifting you more time to connect with different people that allow you to find elevation so you can support yourself and elevate your goal. Elevate the faith that you are able to support others and they shall support you. It may not be fathomable right now, but Jupiter's going to go back into Pisces, and it will be that we can trust in the unmanifest, and that faith and going into action before things have actually delivered themselves to us will allow ourselves to be like the fool, happy-go-lucky, just stepping off into our own hero's journey, knowing that we are supported not only with our own faith, but the universe, which is our dearest reflection. And that's the muscle, what we're building. What? Yeah, we're charging ourselves up. We're loading ourselves up. We're giving ourselves self-esteem, self-credibility. That is how we become monumental, magnanimous magnets for our own self-love. That is what we're learning. That's the great gift which we have the opportunity to work with within this lunar cycle. Check out Venus, opposite Neptune. retrograde in Pisces. Venus would rather be in Pisces. That's where it exalts. But Venus is like, I've got lots of different things that I can perceive. I've got lots of different details, and I'm looking to weave all of these into my experience. I'm looking to be open. Mars is, I'm doing it. I'm acting upon it. I'm maneuvering it. But Venus is having to alter because it's actually in this mutable energy, as is Mars. It's like fractured consciousness. How are we going to put it back together? All these different pieces that may have shattered since the last full moon in Aquarius, and yet we're bound to have another one. We're going to recognize through this cycle where our weakest spots are, and that's okay. You're a warrior of love, and that's a can-do attitude. I said, when we recognize that we're going to face our sensitivities, our limitations are going to come up through us, through our connection to this, through our connection to that, through our relationships with whoever we share frequencies with, who pull the wool over our own eyes. We've got to take responsibility that often it is actually the wool that falls over our own eyes, the ram, which gives us the opportunity to shear our own fleece so that we're not fleeced, we're not deceived by ourselves again, and we can actually become really the goat, the greatest of all time. We become the opportunity to find that we are able to feed into ourselves rather than just get herded about and shepherded about by situations that aren't necessarily for us. They are the illusion. That is the wool in our eyes. Anyway, thanks for your presence, Flow Key. I appreciate you. We're just going to look at a few more of these aspects that are going on in this chart. Look at the invisible Mercury. It's not visible in the night sky. It will be a couple of days after, just a few days after, but for the whole lunar cycle, you can see it's like a template for the 28 days. But it's a quincunx. There's the finger of God, a yod. Venus did it. Oh, of course she did. Mars did it. Oh, yeah, of course he did. And now Mercury's going to be doing it at the time of the new moon. And this means that we've got this 150 kind of degree aspects, this yod, which only will last for half of a day or so, with Mercury flying through Leo the whole time. It's in its own underworld, but it's making this aspects to firstly Neptune retrograde at 22 degrees of Pisces, then Pluto retrograde at 25 degrees of Capricorn. And so we're looking at our illusions, we're looking at the changing of our support structures, our boundaries, and how we can reform them and self-support ourselves, love ourselves more by having good boundaries. That's a challenge, right? You see that obviously this is a consistent sextile between the Pluto retrograde and the Neptune retrograde, and it's about recreation. When we're talking about a quincunx, we're talking about something which is of another world. It's not of a physical situation, so it's about our perception. And so how we perceive of our structure and support systems in our day-to-day rituals and routines, as well as our collaborations with other people and how we empathize with these situations that we connect into, that we collaborate with others. It's very deep. It's very interesting. It's often about the reflections of the matriarchal line, because the moon is the ruler of the 12th house of Leo. And of course, this is a lunar cycle. Also, Pluto ruling the 4th. Pluto in the 6th house of Leo in Capricorn, ruling the 4th house. So there's this deep, unforeseen root, but we're feeling and letting go because they're collective belief systems, they're collective emotions, they're collective feelings that we're working through right now. We're laboring away at the love which we're able to provide for ourselves and alter by being the new idea of who we can be rather than the idea that we were. It's always about alternatives. It's about the change of the traditions, and it's these traditions which we move into now that which will support us moving forward. I did want to show you the Uranus retrograde. I did want to show you that. Let me just show you it, and then we're done with the chart share on the screen. So I see you, Stephanie. Thank you for your presence. You've got Chiron at 12 degrees of Aries. This is an initiation, a 52-year initiation. Chiron takes 52 years to do a whole cycle. And so you've got the Chiron return there, Stephanie. And this means that you're activating your self-orientation, your opportunity to recognize that there's some parts of self which are going to be there. They're going to be there, but you can labor away at the love, especially within this lunar cycle with this lovely trine. Could say it's a grand fire trine, a bit wide, but we're letting go of these belief systems about the self, and they come through so many different ways, whether it's the national line, the class system, the age system, whatever have you. So the last thing I wanted to share before we go into the cards and the 12 signs is that when this lunar cycle waxes, obviously we'll be back to talk about the full moon. We have the first quarter here in Scorpio, squaring the sun back at 22 degrees opposite Jupiter already. Interesting, isn't it? It's a T-square in the fixed signs. But it's, look at that year, Uranus retrograde. It takes place here station, and then it goes back until January the 19th. So let's just have a look at that. Back to 10 degrees. So wherever that's happening in your chart, you can recognize it's going to be that it makes aspects to other parts of your sky as well. And so January the 18th, it will be where Uranus goes back to where it was last at in May this year. So what were you doing in May? I know I was in Mexico teaching astrology workshops on the beach. You can get in contact with me if you'd like me to teach an astrology workshop for you. That would be great. But look at this. The station happens with Venus retrograde. Venus rules Taurus, where Uranus is, and Venus will be retrograde in a harmonic trine to Uranus stationing here at 10 degrees. And that's back at the end of Capricorn season in January. Coming to the end of the year of the ox, the south node by this point actually in Scorpio with the north node in Taurus with Uranus. And it will come out of shadow by the time we get to May in 2022. And then we'll move into new territory here in the Taurus season. Interesting. We're going to have this lovely pile up of the North Node, Uranus, and the Sun. And they're also going to be making sextiles to Jupiter and Neptune at the end of Pisces. That is a while off. But we can see the massive quantum leaps that we'll be making. But the way that those quantum leaps are made, punctuated, is by the alterations and shifts that we activate in the change of our belief systems, our core, courageous belief systems to face ourselves. There's certain things that we can do to support our greatest gifts, like just framing them up a little bit more. Think about when people like corporations, they just change a little bit more. Well, we've all got our own products, the things that we produce, our gifts, our talents. How can we bring them into a more square perspective? How can we become Saturnian of these things? Saturn's retrograde into October, as is Jupiter and Pluto. And so what we're looking at the opportunity to do is to see that we can bring our thing to the marketplace. Mercury, which is like the lower vibrational octave of Uranus, underneath the beams in the creative sign of Leo, is the identification of how we package ourselves so that we can take our spheres of influence, which are spherical, to the marketplace, where they need to be squared up and packaged so that they can be sold in the commercial state of affairs on like a Mercury market day, which is Wednesday, Mercures, or Mercredi as the French call it. So yeah, very good, very interesting, and intending that you are able to find benefit in all that which is shared. Obviously, Uranus retrograde, the degrees that it's going back for, and also this new moon. We're going to pull cards now for each of the 12 signs. If you want a personal consultation where I can actually read your own unique natal chart, give you the opportunity to get a greater connection with the language of astrology for yourself, I'm here to share everything I can within the time that you purchase. All the information that you need to do to get in contact is in the description box below. We actually share your chart on the screen like I just did with the current sky, as well as sharing your natal chart. For instance, if we had an hour or so, we spend the first 45 minutes looking at your natal chart. The last 15 minutes will apply all of the current energies through the next few years so that you know when you're able to make the most in deploying your efforts in which area of life. So that's pretty cool. Also, you get the opportunity to look back at some past experiences and see with revised, mature eyes how far you've come along, how accomplished you are. And that really gives us a lot of courage and recognition for seeing actually that we can create new things because we've actually done so many things already. So give yourself a round of applause, a pat on the back. You are worthy of receiving your own grace, gratitude, and compliments. I'm grateful for each of you in that live chat box. Astrid Garcia, you are appreciated, and numerous other folks. It's actually jammed up the chat because there's so many of you. Kathy B, I'm grateful for you, and loads of other beautiful people. I accidentally shared a comment, but broken arrow. There's no such things as accidents. You can't miss what's meant for you. It's an omen. Oh man, it's an omen. Whatever you see. I would love my astrology chart done, but you can't afford it. Well, we can always recognize that we can save things up. We can save up for things, and you never know. When you feed into your self-love, you can manifest anything. I went to Mexico last October, do you know? and I went away for 9 months, the longest I've been away from my own natal country. I left 2 months, 2 weeks after they did a lockdown. So the media says you can't leave and go somewhere. Well, I did. I went into a country that I'd never been to before. I didn't know the language, on my own, with no one to meet. And not only did I meet a wrestler, which I'd seen perform many times, but he was famous, WWE wrestler, Austin Aries. And I've interviewed him and met him and did yoga with him. But I also went and met Santos Bonacci, world famous astrologer, a couple of times. My friend Santos, my colleague. Met loads of great people. I ended up teaching astrology workshops on the beach in Mexico and living off astrology readings. And I left with only £300. And that was enough for like 1 week. And I managed to sustain myself for 9 months. Why? Because I loved to do what I love. And you can too. There was a time where I couldn't, where I didn't. And I was following other people. I was a follower. But stars don't follow. They lead with what they love, first and foremost. And this is what we're enabling ourselves to do, to see that we can go above and beyond what we have previously done. We can always build upon when we feed in and marinate, which means folding in. Like when you're making cream, I'm not any type of chef, but Taurus is the cream, like the cow, the bull, right? Quality. Where Uranus is going retrograde, a fixed sign of quality, ruled by Venus. It's so Venetian, it's quintessential. It's kind of Christ consciousness, really, Venus. But you whip cream, don't you? And then if you do it good, you can hold it upside down like meringue, and it's so firm. It's got dexterity because when you fold in, it's like a quincunx, like a pentacle. It's like that makes this kind of starry, kind of quintessential. Every 150-degree whip, it makes whipped cream. That's sustainable. So when you do things you love, you whip up a storm and you can sustain yourself. That's exactly it. I'm not just being funny. I can be funny. I mean, humor dissolves things. I'm telling you truth, though. And that's what this new moon is all about. It's the new moon in Leo. To be brave, to be bold, to move some energy, to move yourself with how much you love doing things. Melissa, Carey, I'm grateful for you. And Nadine, I'm grateful for you too. And Different Strokes, thank you for rubbing yourself the right way. You are a genie in the bottle, and this is the activation of our genius, your quirkiness, the originality that is you. Nobody can not follow that, because that is the original spark within you. It's like the pineal gland. So when we cultivate our genius by doing the things that we love, we actually find that great spark, that any idea that we might think, no, we can't, could never do it. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Back yourself, reassure yourself from the inside out, because you are worthy. That is exactly what you're able to do. You wouldn't have had the idea if it wasn't a possible reality for you to manifest. That's the facts. That's the truth. If you've got a great big spark, you can see the picture, right? If I was in the dark and there was a big spark, you could see the whole picture. That's why in cameras they have a flash, and it blinds you, doesn't it? It's blinded. Wow, the awareness, and there was a flash. You see the whole big picture. Like, I want to have a farm. I want to have an avocado farm, and I would like to teach astrology in the dark using mud and paint and all kinds of things, and that would be brilliant. And we could drink fruit which is straight off the bush, and it'd be luxurious. If you got that kind of idea, of that kind of community, of that kind of experience, that's just mine idea. If I've got that kind of idea and I had it like a flash, I can manifest it if I act upon it. Because when you act on the flash, just like the camera takes the picture, you can manifest the greatest resolution of your life. It can be the greatest revolution, because can be the picture of your masterpiece 360 degrees all around you. You can fork it with your vision, and it will be forking brilliant, because you loved yourself enough to do it, and you are worthy of no less. My dear, that is why you're here. That is why you're sound, vibration, frequency, because you can, and we won't have it any other way. There will be trials. Oh, yeah. Oh, there'll be tribulations. As I said, these big, magnanimous, lit ideas, they cast lights, they cast shadows. But when we face ourselves, it's all worth it on the journey. It's all worth it, because we are able. So thank you for that. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your patience. We're just going to go through the 12 signs now. And first of all, we're going to start with Leo. Remember, this is the sun and the moon coming together. And so when we're talking about the moon, we're talking about the 12th house of Leo. collective conscious feelings, collective unconscious feelings. And Mercury being underneath the beams in the first house of Leo, we're working with a whole lot of things that we might say that we don't necessarily want to say. Some things we might think, but we don't want to be thinking, and yet we want to get clear on them. And maybe there'd be some resolution. Maybe we have to go with our intuition. Maybe we have to follow our own interior guidance, which we can rely upon. We can rely upon our senses. When you lose your mind, you come to your senses, man. And so this is very powerful for us. Well, the cards which we got come out, I don't know what they are. They went face down. They felt heavy. Ooh, they felt heavy. But it's interesting, so it is. What does I suggest that's going to help us the best? That is activation of the self, which changes our belief systems in our day-to-day witness point. And so we do have Venus and Mars in Virgo in the second house of Leo. So for Leo, it's about leading with it and being it. You can be it from the inside out. In fact, you already are. You're lit from the inside out. Be a star. You don't have to talk about it. You can reveal it by showing people habitually, anchoring a message of love. In doing so, the seeds which you are able to have emanate out from your heart, pulsate out from the central part of your very own being, from the core of us, we can each recognize with our solar energy, Leo, ascendant, moon, or rising, that you're able to honor your value by leading with the justification and virtuous nature of your soul's activation. And this is the transformation of that value. It's the manifestation of collaborations with people that recognize your worth because you hold yourself to that standard. And by gosh, that standard, well, it sets the scene for your manifestation. And you may not have seen that before. It may be a revolutionary experience that has to tear down the old core belief systems to manifest the new ones. Oh, cool, blimey. Leo, we've got the Two of Swords, the Hermit, and the Six of Pentacles for the new moon at 16 degrees of your first house. Thank you very much indeed. You are appreciated. Okay, thank you. I need to grab some water. I didn't organise that water. And so I appreciate your patience. I'm going to just get my water. Why? It's an omen, man. Because you've got to do what's best for you to meet the central needs of your own well-being. And that is how we're able to share with each other abundantly. I'll just be a moment. So where are you guys? Where are you? How are you feeling? I mean, how are you feeling? What's been being revealed to you since we had that first full moon in Aquarius, eh? What's changed? I mean, I've spoken to a lot of people and they said that like it was a big picture, like a mural portrayal of some kind of experience, hopes and dreams. And it kind of shattered the paradigm, that full moon. It was actually trining Uranus, it was trining Black Moon Lilith in Gemini. And so it's been very interesting. It's a Cancerian new moon cycle that we were within and still closing out. And so that moon, it is waning. It's actually going to make ingress back into Cancer any hour now, the next hour. I appreciate your patience with me. Thank you. Passion. Passion of the Christ. Passion is invigoration, right? It's what is a bit like the vascular energy of Leo. It's like the veins. As I say, the heart is more than just the valve here. The heart is the whole atmosphere of Earth. We share the same heart. We share the same garden. This is our garden. And we're the clearers of this place. Our nature is clarity. You see, even the blood they call claret. But really, we're looking to see beyond colour, beyond lights, beyond the illusion, and into all that which we avoid, to gain clearance, to see that we don't get hold up anymore. That's that we don't hold up by carrying weight. We're here to put down the baggage. And that means love ourselves more and more. And this is what we're working with. And so we can recognize it's just very funny that we've got such a mutable energy right now. An energy of change, because we've had Venus move ahead of Mars and been leading the pack for a while. Mars has also gone into Virgo with Venus. Mutable energy, yet we're still just about moving into a fixed lunar cycle. We're talking about the fixed lunar cycle we're moving into, which means we're within a cardinal lunar cycle that started, a water cardinal lunar cycle. But yet the energy of mutable energy with Venus and Mars is already underway. It's interesting. So Virgo, mutable Earth, you can recognize with Venus and Mars in your first house at the time of the new moon, which starts at 16 degrees of Leo, in your 12th house. This is karmic endings for you with regards to your creativity and your imagination, your devotion to the collective. This is a completion. You may find that you have a lot of completions right now with Mercury, your ruling planet, beneath the beams, making a yod to the Neptune retrograde in Pisces, 180 degrees away in your 7th house, and Pluto retrograde at 25 degrees of Capricorn in your 5th house. And so this is a recognition of how you're able to perceive yourself due to your creativity in a different light. Oh, yeah, beyond lights, beyond illusions, Virgo, you can recognize that you are a creator and you can create self-esteem due to that which you love. And your connection to your spirit in doing those things is what makes you feel fantastic and be a fanatic over what you're doing. But it's endings, it's completions. Whatever's not stable shall be done. And we got this. We got this. Mercury is beneath the beams. It needs to cut free. So Virgo, with this 12th house, new moon in Leo, 16 degrees, square to Uranus in Taurus, in your 9th house. It's changing belief systems you had about your value system. It's got to go. And so what you will be left with is stable ground. This is a transformation of your value system. Tower card, 8 pentacles, just like Leo. Bum ba da bum ba da bum bum bum. And the sun, bottom of the pack. Very creative, very nice. Transmutation, metamorphosis of the way that you are able to recreate the way that you are perceived by others. And it means letting go of some gunk, letting go of some residue, letting go of some old to-do, which was collective scenarios, belief systems. It's going to be filtered out. Let it go. Open up. Accept. Surrender. Create. Masquerade. Enjoy yourself, Virgo. It's a completion phase. It's really interesting because the whole cycle was within the 12th house, and then there'd be the Virgo new moon, right? And so, again, interesting for Virgo, recognize it's a lot about your community affairs, the type of people where you feel at home with, and those that you are able to empathize with as well, with the moon ruling that 11th house. The sun, obviously, at home in the 12th. Okay, Libra, you got your ruling planet in your 12th house as well. This is the thing, because you got Mars there as well. And so, Libra, this is about the identification with your reflections and your self-worth. Mars ruling Aries, your 7th house, and your 2nd house with Scorpio is. So this is about letting go of old perceptions, old veneers of gaining awareness and observing yourself. You're able to gain the opportunity to change by the traction which you deploy in your day-to-day efforts, and this can bring a metamorphosis and alter. You are the alter, you are the change. Venus also will be making ingress into Libra, leaving the 12th house of Virgo, but this new moon takes place at 16 degrees of your 11th house, makes a square to your 8th house where Uranus is. And so the challenge is like, who are you breaking free from, and who are you moving towards? Who can you make quantum leaps with by connecting to, and who can you make a quantum leap with by disconnecting from? Oh my gosh, Libra. And this is very intriguing with your ruling planet Venus making a trine, 175 degree trine to Pluto, which is actually retrograde in your 4th house. You could see that you might be moving your environment, you might be moving internationally, 12th house stuff. Also with Jupiter retrograde back into your 5th house, it could be for creative endeavors. be very nice. And so there's lots of different opportunities for you to fathom to make the most of. And it could be quite unexpected, you know. Again, I mean, that could, I don't want to say that for everybody, but it could be quite unexpected. So Libra, with the moon ruling your 10th house, it's about your work, your labours of love in the world. Your family is the world, it is your work. And you've got the goddess Libra. This is obviously you, Empress, Venus. And so be open to the magnetics of honouring self. You become more magnetic. People will drawn into you when you go into self. And to go into self, you've got to be more martial. You've got to follow that Mars. And so, and you've got to follow the king, the sun, shine, which is meeting with the moon at 16 degrees of your 11th house. So this new moon is about the connections that you make by honouring your joy, acting upon that, loving it, and just being that. That's who you are. Venus. You are able to be this solar energy of following what you love, and that makes you more gracious, that makes you more valuable. Just honour yourself because you are worthy of that and no less. You got the Empress and the King of Wands, the Libra, new moon in Leo at 16 degrees of your 11th house. Woo! These chat things, and they keep getting snarled up. But I see you guys consistently chatting between yourselves. Thank you very much for your presence. You are appreciated. Thank you for sharing the video with anyone. Thank you for telling someone and telling their friend about these different readings. If you know anyone who likes astrology, it's all about that. That's support. That's the Leo energy. That's chainmail. That's very beautiful. I'm grateful for that. Next, we do have Scorpio. Well, your ruling planet Mars is in your 11th house right now. It is in Virgo, and so there's changes afoot within your community, and so that's interesting. Also, Pluto, your ruling planet, and Capricorn, of course, in your 3rd house. It's about communication. Sometimes it's about less communication you could recognize. It's about leading with the mission, being the mission, emanating a frequency by not having to tell, dictate, but just actually being it. And so you're pretty good at that, Scorpio. This is a new moon for you in fellow fixed sign, Leo, the sun, top of your sky. This might be a time where you might want to go unnoticed, but you are actually illuminated. You're blowing up. Everyone wants a bit of it. You've got the sun, top of the sky. And so this is interesting. With Mercury making a quincunx to Pluto, your ruling planet, in your 3rd house, it's about types of communication. How do you integrate it on the down low, maybe? How can you still do it on a way which is private? Interesting, so shall it be. With the new moon in your 10th, but the moon ruling your 9th house, matriarchal, family, connections, emotional things with regards to the nationalities, with regards to legal situations, with regards to different belief systems, about the status quo events in the world, even things that have gone on in the home or within families, this type of thing. And so, interesting, again, I said Mars is in Virgo. Lead with it. Lead by being it, and then you activate it. Self-activation. That's interesting, isn't it? This is the way to do it. You don't have to tell people about it. It's better done properly rather than spout it off about it, announcing about it. They can soon see you when you've done it. When you've done it, it's actually fertile for people recognizing that they can do it too. There's no point in announcing. You may as well just reveal it by being it. Woo! Yes. We also got the Ace of Swords. So this is right up your sleeve, and you notice with the ace, it's got that crown on it. It's about that corona. It's about that Christ consciousness. It's about the temple. It's about that pineal gland. It's about illuminating yourself from the inside out and following your genius. Uranus retrograde, remember, within this lunar cycle. And there's the square from Uranus in Taurus, which is in your 7th house. This is changing how you are seen, changing how you are recognized, and you're changing the scene by setting different standards, aren't you, Scorpio? Oh yeah, you are. You're setting a different template. And so this is about recognizing yourself and seeing how you can change and alter your perspective of who you are, because you're obtaining a different frequency. You're emitting a different frequency because you are worthy. You're from beyond time. And so thank you for manifesting the Hermit and the Ace of Swords for the new moon in Leo at 16 degrees of your 10th house. Oh, yeah. What do you think, Teddy? He thinks it's a good idea. He thinks it's all going quite nicely. Thank you for your presence, Rochira Talpatra. Awesome name. I appreciate you. I'm grateful for each and every single one of you. Equally, you're fantastic. Sagittarius. This is a new moon in a fellow fiery sign. Sagittarius. You've got Ketu the South Node retrograde in, well, of course it's retrograde, in your first house, which is dismantling so many belief systems about your identification with who you are. And so this can be very healing because it's retrograde trining Chiron in your fifth house. And so you're finding that your creativity is being activated. The belief systems about your creativity are being activated with a new moon in your ninth house at 19 degrees. It's not 19, it's at 16 degrees of Leo. 16 degrees of Leo. So sometimes you might find that there's this combative nature with regards to the competition. Yet there is no competition except for how much we can love ourselves by pursuing what brings us into our joy. Sometimes we have to go up above and beyond in learning things on our journeys, on our experiences, to rip free of old belief systems from that which we had carried with us, drag them on in. They've been within our cellular membrane of the embodiment of who we are. But you can recognize that this is a very big shift. When was the last time, Sagittarius, that you had Ketu, the South Node, going through that first house of yours? Well, it was 18 and a half years ago, in the year 2003. What was going on for you then? And how can you recognize the change, the adaptation of your story? You know, if you don't know, get to know. You can actually use the resource, planetwatcher.com. Maybe you come for a personal consultation. You can do that by following the link in the description box below. But look at your chart, where that South Node's going through. It's nearly finished the transit. It's changing belief systems. And this is a big theme for our story, especially that the new moon is happening in your ninth house. You're the ninth sign. By gosh, if we're just spelling it out for ourselves, what we're looking at doing is undoing spells that have been cast from our previous existences so that we can let go of them and go beyond our limitations. Sagittarius, you're ruled by Jupiter, and the next full moon where this lunar cycle is starting is actually conjunct Jupiter, your ruling planet, was in Pisces, now moved back to about 28 degrees, will be at 27 degrees by the full moon. And so what you're recognizing that there's loads of different things that you're able to let go of, old connections, belief systems about the people who you're connecting with. Maybe it's your spheres of influence, the manner in which you communicate, or how you feel you're perceived by other people. You can alter it. You are the shift. You are the change. You can activate it just by doing the things that you love. And that's what this is all about. Woo! But you'll find that when you do these things, when you do these things that you love, we expose ourselves. We're exposed because we find that we leave a trail. And that's our tail. It's actually the thoughts and it's the things that we presume. We make an ass out of ourselves, don't we, when we're projecting? But that's par for the course, so that we gain the opportunity to see ourselves and we can cut ourselves free from these old belief systems, these old snag ups, these old things that would get us caught up. And so this is like seeing the Maya, the illusion, the atmospherics, gets us in the mind. Is it this? Is it that? Ooh. But when we go, we rattle both hemispheres of the brain. When we ponder on it, we go into the frequency. You might think it looks insane, but no. What we're doing is we're going beyond the brain. We're going beyond the inferiorities of that, and we're coming into something which is the embodiment of sound, vibration, and frequency. We're coming into harmonics. We're coming into unity, man. That is what this is all about. We've got the High Priestess. This is the light and the dark. This is the yin and the yang. This is the sound of equality. This is when we can fathom it all. This is when we can be really, really serious and a play within the drama of it all as well. Sagittarius, we're pulling ourselves up. This is the rising phoenix. You're going on a whole new journey, up above and beyond. New moon for you in your creative practice. And this can be paradigm shattering for you. In your day-to-day rituals and routines, you're going to be doing something new. You're embodying something new. It's a whole new frequency. It's called love. It's who you are. And so we've got the High Priestess and the Lover's card. And so you can recognize that whatever shadows come up, it gives you the ability to clear things out with regards to old belief systems, which will get you caught and stuck in the past. So you can move up above and beyond into a whole new layer of your story by letting go of the old ones. Let me take a sip of my beverage. That was Sagittarius. It's about old emotions through our collaborations with other people. The moon rules in the 8th house, but that new moon is in the 9th. Oh, Kerry Bell, I'm grateful for you. And Inner Schwanty, thank you for your presence. You are a bunch of fantastic gifts. You're a whole constellation of flipping stars, you guys. I'm grateful for you. And Louise, you're brilliant. So next, Capricorn. Oh, Capricorn, your ruling planet, it is Saturn retrograde in Aquarius, where we just had the last full moon and shall have the next. In fact, we got that really awkward, not really opposition between the new moon at 16 degrees of Leo and it's opposite Saturn at 9 degrees. So that's like a 7-degree orb. That is a very loose opposition, but the new moon is also opposite Jupiter in Aquarius, which is in your second house with Saturn. And so you're looking at restructuring your value. You're looking at how you can set different boundaries and set yourself up for success with regards to how you are perceived by those people that you're connecting with and supporting within community. How you support yourself really reflects on out. And so this is about how you we have these projections and we create them ourselves, and we have this also like a charade like an illusion due to the way that we set ourselves up. And it is actually that this world is an illusion which we set up for ourselves. If you can consider, Capricorn, how you would like to be seen, well, you know that's something you work away at. It's something you labor away at. It's something you don't just do one day. It's got to be done, and it takes time. And that's what you're all about. You're the Lord of time. And so what you want to do to find that you're recognized and respected and appreciated is to have longevity in that which you're setting into your creative eye. And this is the new moon for you in your 8th house. Oh, yeah. 8th house, 16 degrees of Leo. Who are you collaborating with? Is it actually supporting you and you supporting them? What are you discovering through your collaborations in the darkness, the unforeseen, the occult? What's being revealed to you through the esoteric world of relationships and partnerships? And so this is very interesting. Obviously, there's so many different things that get revealed to us through different situations of different types of people in different areas of our lives, whether it's family, parents, children, lovers, others. It could be our business. It could just be that actually it's people within our local areas where we're connecting to, within cafes and all these types of things, alive. I ain't gone to a library. I don't. They exist, and so this is interesting. Capricorn, the new moon is about your emotional reflections and projections, but yet if you're able to tap into the feelings, into the senses, that you can gain so much more awareness. And so this is about being able to speak your truth, even if it's shocking, be able to announce it. Know also that everything I'm saying relates to all the governmental structures, all the health organizations. Oh, you know them, and all these types of things, because they're Capricornian. So when we're looking at this, we're going to be seeing so many things revealed in the media. They reveal themselves by their actions, and so this is very interesting with Mars and Venus ahead of it in the 9th house worldwide. Different things across the media can be revealed through actions, through if you can see it for the eyes that sees. And so this is interesting. Oh, I appreciate that. I'm glad that it resonates. The card which we got is the Shrewd Old King of Swords. It's the Shrewd Old King of Swords. And so this is about reining it in within your heart, but being quite strong with what you utilize in your connections and your conversations. Especially with Mercury there in the 8th house, obscured by the beams of the sun, making that quincunx to Pluto in your 1st house. It's a transformation of the identification of the type of communications and thoughts which you share with other people. You've got better boundaries. You don't have to share all of your ideas and thoughts now, do you? And so this is very interesting, and it can be better tight-lipped, means that you're actually able to be more accountable. You can reveal yourself by being yourself. That's fine. The transparency, the authenticity goes a long way, and yet that allows you to act in a sense as Christ conscious, as coherent, as the breath, as the pulse, as the star seeded, and all is revealed by your actions. You emanate out a timeless frequency of love that all can feel, all can perceive. For us individual Capricorns, this is a very valuable Saturn retrograde in the 2nd house time for us to really change our perception of ourselves, especially with the moon ruling the 7th house, but this is a new moon in your 8th house. You can feel that you're recognized in a different way throughout this lunar cycle. As long as you honor you first, you can feel that others will recognize you in a different way. So long as you continue to honor you first. This is the King of Swords and the Two of Swords. This is very much the intellectualization of how to be a hermeticist and rein it in from your heart and speak your truth. Interesting. Very airy. I appreciate each one of you. Thank you for your connections, contributions. Oh, I'm grateful for you. Next, we got Aquarius. Well, that's where the full moon was. That's where the full moon shall be. Yes. And we also got Jupiter retrograde there and Saturn, your ruling planet there. As well as Uranus, which actually is squaring this new moon, actually in Taurus, your 4th house. Oh my gosh. So we got kind of situation going on here with regards to pulling away from the roots and innovating how you are spending your time at home, how you're honoring your value, how you're nurturing the gifts and talents from your home space. Gives you the opportunity to change your perspective, to change what was actually seeded, maybe. Innovation, the change is uprooting the old and giving you the opportunity to move into the cultivation of renewed, radical, conscious shifts in your perspective. I think that's pretty cool and amazing. As I say, it's radical, isn't it? It's very innovative. And again, we got the 6, 7. As I said, this is a new moon in your 7th house, 16 degrees of Leo, a fiery, invigorating shift in your perspective due to the activation of how you are connecting and collaborating and who you're opening up to. And it's very big shifts and transformations of your consciousness. I love it. Pluto's still obviously in the 12th house there for you guys. With Venus there in your 8th house making the trine to Pluto. It's like these different shifts, very valuable activation for you. Lots of fire for you, Aquarius. So this is the Leo new moon in your 7th house. 7 wands and 2 wands. Very interesting as you come into your value, as you find that you're able to activate your value, as you recognize yourself, other people shall recognize you too. Oh, I love it. Again, it is the 7 of swords, the 7 of wands and the 2 of wands. Honoring your self-value means that other people will also. Very nice indeed. Pisces. Well, Pisces, the last time that we was talking with you guys, you actually had Jupiter there in your 1st house, but it's gone retrograde, hasn't it? It's gone way back. And so it's gone back and shall be actually where this new moon leads to a full moon in a conjunction with Jupiter. And so this is very interesting for us. But the new moon itself is actually in your 6th house, Pisces. The sun and the moon meeting together. This is a great activation of how you can follow your creativity in your day-to-day rituals and routines. Isn't that interesting, considering you've got Mars and Venus in Virgo in your 7th house? So you really got this pull, this kind of determination to change your perception about yourself due to other people doing it for themselves. You know that you can do it for yourself too. And so you think, well, if you don't do it for yourself, no one will, and these kinds of things. And so it's very interesting that you've got the ability to work on your health and anchor a frequency of love by doing what brings you invigoration, playfulness, the cultivation of joy in your experiences. And this can be very beneficial for you. It's actually karmic because it's about the shifting the beliefs that you have to do things for others first and actually just do them for you because you're worthy. And that helps others too. That's get you off your seat because it actually helps others too. Woo! My goodness gosh, Pisces, there's some different cards that come out for you. It's only just. It's only fair. What we're looking to do is put yourself into your own vision, like your driver's seat. Get your drive up. Mars and Venus going through your 7th house. This is a Leo new moon at 16 degrees of your 6th house. And so you can find that your perception is changing as you put more weight into your own basket. More eggs into the basket of what you can do in your day-to-day experiences that brings you joy, enthusiasm, love, cultivation of creativity. The challenge is, how can you support yourself doing this? Well, it's about letting go of these limiting belief systems that stop you from doing the things that you've always wanted to do, but now you can. You can do them. And so you follow through and do them, and then you'll change the belief systems that said you couldn't. That's what this is about. And you can utilize. It's so funny. Oh, you can utilize this 6th house new moon with the moon, which rules your 5th house, 5 cups. You can utilize your emotions to put you into it. It's like, well, I'm frustrated. I'll put myself into it. I'll go to the gym. My emotion says I'll go and buy that astrology book and practice learning every single day. I'll go and buy one of Lada's courses and I'll study it and I'll learn it back to front, front to back, and put your emotions into it, put your back into it. And so this is really powerful for you, Pisces. And you got the Justice, the 9 of Swords, especially with Jupiter being your ruling planet, gone back into your 12th house, also rules Sagittarius, which is the top of your sky. So you're letting go of belief systems about the world, about what you can do in the world, about how you feel perceived in the world. And you're activating a new sense of self due to like I always say that the emotions are a bit like a rudder at the back of a boat. It pushes us, it propels us forward. And that's the self-esteem, the gusto, the momentum which you need to change your perspective on yourself as you see that you can, you are able, and you shall honor who you are. Pisces, new moon, 16 degrees of Leo in your 6th house. Yes. Teresa, I'm grateful for you. Thank you. I'm grateful for Nardine, Robin, Wayne, Heidi, Ali, Melissa. Oh, each and every single one of you. You guys in the background, you are fantastic. Thank you for fanning your own flames. Thank you for feeding into your own self-love. Thank you for cultivating joy in your experiences. Aries, ascendant, moon, and rising. This is a new moon in your 5th house in Leo. And so this is a great opportunity for you to cultivate love and joy, and yet you want to find that you're able to pursue this every single day. Go after these hobbies, these crafts, these things that give you the support in your day-to-day rituals and routines and experiences, and find that actually you can connect with other people too. You can find alternative streams to connect with different types of people doing the types of things that you love. It might be different to somebody else, it might be different to the types of people that you connected with before, but you can break free from old groups and find that you're always welcomed and accepted into new patterns, into new regimes, into a staple, into a new example, which you can set a whole new scene by being. Oh, Aries. This new moon in your 5th house makes a trine, a harmonic trine to Chiron retrograde in your 1st house. So you're really healing by stepping into your heart's invigoration and using your determination with your ruling planet Mars squaring the nodes. What? You haven't said that for a bit. No, but I did say it way back then at the beginning when we had the chart on the screen. Mars is the ruling planet of Aries and Scorpio, and squaring the nodes at the time of this new moon. And so we can recognize that it is a very powerful activation for how we deploy ourselves, especially in rituals and routines, within going after what we feel is a healthy, vibrational, sound frequency for us to be within. That means putting ourselves in the atmospherics of things that we enjoy, because joy, well, that's who we are. That's especially who you are, Aries. You are the ram, which is Mars backwards. And so what you want to do is fold into the self, as I said. Right ascension and meridian means you go into the middle of it all. Stuck in the middle of you is the only way to pursue one's own joy. There you go. We got the Knight of Swords. We do have Mercury reminding us that it's making a yod at this time. And so we're finding that our perception's changing. The way that we use our mind, the way we recognize the nature of our connection to mindfulness, coherence, breath, and how we can find this helps us manifest in different ways. Different people say there's different tricks of the trade. You might write things down. You might affirm it. You might speak it into existence. You might not tell anyone about it. You might tell everybody about it. You do what's tried and tested and what works for you. You might paint it. You might make a vision board. I don't know what you're able to do, but the depths of which you can fathom from beyond the light, but in the sound vibration of your frequency, with Mercury beneath the beams of the sun right now, is very interesting. But Mars, as I say, is your ruling planet. It's in Virgo, the material-based sign. So just leading with the change, but rather than talking about it, change your belief system, your value system, makes you look more valuable. And that's what it's all about. It's not just about looking at more valuable, it's about feeling that frequency, which is beyond even the commerce, beyond even the money. But the more that we feel great about ourselves, the more that we love ourselves, the more that we're worth. And that's infinite, boundless love. Knight of Swords and the 9 Pentacles for Aries. change your belief systems about the value of that which you're able to pursue in your day-to-day experiences. Get out of the mind, man. Come into the activation of the senses. Taurus. This is interesting because we have a fixed solar new moon in your 4th house in Leo. Oh my goodness gracious gosh, Taurus. This is a new moon of the sun and the moon coming together in your 4th house. How are you nurturing your creativity? How are you being at home with your heart's joy? And how are you speaking emotionally to yourself? How are you nurturing yourself, saying, yes, I can, I'm able, I recognize that I've got the opportunity, the gifts, the talents, the skill set to be able to do all the things that I love to do, to invigorate myself, to nurture myself, to be my own greatest lover, like no other. And that's perfect. This is brilliant. This is how we set an example for ourselves. This is how we start our day. This is how we come into the opportunity to find that creativity helps us get things off our chest. You can find even your emotional protocol is to come into the love, the invigoration of sewing, of painting, of singing, of dancing, whatever it is that makes you feel like a star, that makes you feel that you're bleeding on out, radiating, you're dyeing the whole town into the colour of your own infatuation for what brings you your own invigoration. Taurus. Venus is your ruling planet. It's also in your 5th house. What? It means the media which you create, whether it is that sewing, whether it's painting cars or windows, whatever it is that you enjoy doing, cleaning up your heart by doing something which brings you into the tapestry of a media. It could be that you do media. Maybe it's writing. I don't know if you're scribing away or scrubbing away. But whatever you do, when you tap into your heart's joy, it cleans you up. It cleans up whatever's held within the embodiment of who you are. It's really a treat. It's quintessential. And because, you know, Virgo is our daily bread, it's your day-to-day practices, it's your rituals and routines, which brings you this invigoration that nurtures you and allows you to get emotionally entranced by who you are. Woo! I love it. And so, yeah, break free from the old doubts, the old identifications, because you can. And again, this is the 8 Pentacles. 3rd time today. It's a metamorphosis, a change with regards to the value system of yourself. You do something every day, you get recognized, and you recognize yourself, how far you've come, how good you are, at the consistent nature of what you're doing. It's a change of your perspective about this. 8 swords, 8 pentacles, change, metamorphosis, the end of what was, and the beginning of what can be. Shift your perspective, and you can manifest. Shift your thoughts, and you will manifest. 8 pentacles and 8 swords. For Taurus, new moon, 16 degrees of Leo in your 4th house. Nance Hardwick, I'm grateful for you. Daniela, thank you for being you. Jenna Lovecraft, you're appreciated. And Alma, I'm grateful for you there as well, over there in California. Thank you each for your presence. And so next we got Gemini, the moon. Well, the moon was in Gemini when we started out. I've been talking for a while. And let me just see. Has the moon crept back out yet? No, the moon is still in Gemini at the moment. It will be going into Cancer soon. Very soon. About 10 minutes. And so, Gemini. Probably the moon will be in Cancer by the time we get to Cancer. Ooh, it's worth a check. I don't know. I wouldn't bet on it. Gemini, this is the new moon for you in your 3rd house. Ain't that what you're all about? You are talking about the creative nature of communication with your ruling planet Mercury beneath the beams of the sun in the sun's home sign, domicile within its own domain. However, Mercury ain't. Mercury's in the underworld beneath those beams. So you can be working with your unconscious, you can be working with your subconscious, you can be communicating, looking at bridges, seeing which ones you have burnt, seeing how you can build greater ones with more nurturing connection to yourself. This is very interesting. You recognize actually this is the 12th house of Virgo, which is your 4th house. And so you can be looking at old creative patterns from the family line, which are devaluing you. And so you can learn that you're the altar. You're the native, which makes these changes. Because while Mercury making a quincunx in the sign of Leo at 23 degrees, back to Pluto retrograde, 25 degrees of Capricorn, back to Neptune retrograde, 22 degrees of Pisces. This is your grand opportunity to see how you're able to shift your ability to communicate in the world, how you feel perceived in the world, how you look at the world, how you perceive of the world, and how you build bridges of connection with other people that you're collaborating within the workplace or within your relationships and within family. If that's not simple, I don't know what is. But Gemini, this is very interesting. We also have a square from this new moon, 16 degrees of your third house in Leo to Uranus, which is about to turn retrograde in the 12th house at 14 degrees. It will go retrograde back for until Christmas, until January. And so this is a massive change of consciousness, a massive change of your perspective of the collective, of your role as a channel. You are a channel, of course, with Mercury, a ruling planet, and how to recognize, to perceive things beyond the old limitations of thoughts. There's like low vibe thoughts, limits, like hurdles. We're like, step up and beyond them. Step up our game to recognize that actually there's this higher echelon thoughts which are deep within us. There are origins, and we can trust into the loose ones rather than into scarcity, rather than into atmospherics, rather than into inferiorities. This is big. This is a big healing process. It's a weave. It's a tapestry which we weave. You and I, we've been through a lot, but actually recognizing that this is your ability to move beyond a limitation of the mind, then you can see that this is really what you're all about. Woo! Cards which pop out for you guys, Gemini. Wow, we had these cards before. So, I don't know. Did we have this? We haven't had this. 10 swords. Again, this is very interesting. A Mercury making a quincunx to Neptune retrograde, which is your 10th house. So it's perspectives about the world changing. Your perspective of yourself in the world changing. Maybe it's like, well, I can never go traveling on my own, but that you're in a different land, you're traveling. Maybe it's like, I can never talk about astrology to the degree of being fluent, like another language, but then you start doing it, and then you're like, wow, goodness gracious. Maybe it's like, I could never earn enough money doing what I am good at, what I enjoy, but then lo and behold, you start doing that, and you start supporting yourself with your own joy, and so you shift these belief systems about yourself in the world. This is the end of what was, and that means it's the beginning of a new train, a whole new cycle of thought. And we got the Lovers. So this is the exposure of one's own unmost seen parts. The unforeseen tale is going to be exposed due to communications and connections with other people, unforeseen shifts of consciousness, and the opportunity to use our emotions in a way which is about recreating a recreational experience. 5 cups, 10 swords, and the Lovers card for you, Gemini, with a new moon at 16 degrees of Leo in your 3rd house, with Mercury ruling planet just beneath the beams in a yacht. So yeah, very interesting. I'm sure you're going to be absolutely fantastic. Next, we do have Cancer, finally, but certainly not leastly, Cancer. Thank you for your presence. I see you, Natalia from Poland. I'm grateful for you. You just had the last full moon on your ascendant. Wow. Conjuncture Uranus. I bet that was a paradigm shattering experience for you. Or maybe you just come into your genius. Either way. And Mayra, Medina. I'm grateful for you. Did I just finish Taurus? Kind of. I just finished Gemini. So I must have done Taurus before that. I inspire you. That's a cool name. Can't help but notice that being my favorite name. Not playing favorite. It's very cool. Cancer, ascendant, moon, or sunshine. Thank you for your presence. This is the new moon for you in your 2nd house of Leo at 16 degrees. Laura Birkin, I'm grateful for you. And so this new moon for Cancer, 16 degrees of your 2nd house, but the moon rules Cancer, obviously every new moon, and so this is the identification of your value, the identification of your creativity, the identification of your voice, the identification of what you can speak into existence with the cultivation of love. Very interesting. So it is that you got Venus, you got Mars in Virgo, ahead of the pack in your 3rd house, and so this is very cool for you. But again, this is an opportunity to see how you can support yourself within relationships, within connections to others, and Actually, it is your self-support. You don't need to pull on others. You don't need to drag on others. You don't need to ask from others. You can support yourself with the cultivation of your own joy, creativity, and yet it is actually that you can also find support from others when you do this. We are all able to be self-supported, standing up straight without leaning, without depending, without dragging. Certainly don't need those governments. Certainly don't need those corporations. I don't perceive, I don't reckon we do. And so when you recognize that you can support yourself by going after what energizes you, with what brings you nurturance, nutrition, what brings you into contentment, that's what we're learning about. How we can honor our feelings, which are our greatest guides. Our bodies feel, they're sensitive AF, and yet we're spirits. And so we've got intelligence, we are souls, we've been through life after life after life. It's the dear body, it's the dear feeling body, the sensitive body, which is going through trauma, recognizing trauma. It's actually clearing out old, outdated stories from matriarchal lines, past, present, and future, because we're the centaurs of time. So Cancer, your sensitivity is to be honoured. You ain't the donkey. You are a matriarchal, magnificent portal of what was, which we're clearing. And we can be grateful for the opportunity, for alleviation, for letting go of heaviness, and for this opportunity of recreation. Oh my goodness gracious, Cancer. This new moon in your second house is really stepping things into your own brilliance, because you know actually that your emotions are, as I said, like a rudder, like no other. They can propel you into the manifestation of your emotional vision. Oh yes, 10 cups, can't get more. This is about you having a vision for the world, and it's been an emotional vision, and you being able to manifest it due to you pursuing and supporting yourself with your creative endeavors. Oh, yes, indeed. You, Cancer, are able to support yourself and release yourself from the shackles of the mind as you have faith and cultivate joy within your own experience as a master builder within your own reality, because you can. Because we are here to live our joy. We're here to pursue and go after and be the boss of our own experience without having to work 9 till 5 doing things that we don't enjoy. We're here to support ourselves doing the things that we do. For sure, that's exactly what we're here to do. And so you can find this is your greatest opportunity for that. With the new moon here is squaring Uranus, which is in your 11th house. So this is great opportunities to make quantum leaps with your connections by pursuing your heart set standards, by pursuing what brings you into the joy of your very own being. Oh my gosh, the Devil card and the 10 of Cups. Oh my goodness. That's following and pursuing your heart's invigoration. You are worthy of no less. Thank you for identifying with what brings you into your joy. It's Moorish. Thank you for being you. I'm grateful for you, Stephanie BBL Gibson. You're fantastic. And Harmonic McMaster, you're super duper appreciated. Each and every single one of you are equally so. I'm very grateful for the fact that you are pulsating out from the central space of your very own being, radiating out love, because it ripples on out from the center. We don't need to go and get it from others. We can share it. We don't need to go over there and project onto others. We can connect into ourselves and find that that is what supports us and streams on out from the center of our very own being. Thank you for your presence. If you want a personal consultation with me, you can get in contact via the links below. We can arrange a mutually beneficial time to connect, and I shall be very excited to be able to hold a space and reflect all of the great gifts which you bestow. So thank you for reaching out, and all of these consultations, they're absolute joy to be able to follow through, because they're life-changing, so thank you for giving me the honor of being able to practice my craft and to empower you to your connection with astrology. I'm appreciating each and every single one of you. Toby Sultan, each one of you in the live chat, thanks for giving it a thumbs up. Thank you for loving yourself inside and out. You're a bunch of flipping stars. You know who you are. I'm going to catch you real soon. Cheerio for now.